You know, I have to hand it to this show. Unlike many series that have a lot of beauties in their show, and they're just there to be eye candy and to basically sell the merchandise. The thing you have to hand it with Eminence and Shadow is that there's no denying that there is so many scenes that are just there to make you visually observe every nook and cranny of the characters in question. But the difference between this show and many is that rather than it just simply being, hey, here's a character who's just there for eye candy, that character's also talking about important plot relevant situations. And the fact that Eminence and Shadow can blend those two so seamlessly is something worth complimenting. I mean, if you've been around the anime community long enough, you know there's generally two sides of the anime fandom. Those who just want that eye candy and those who want the plot. And the fact that Eminence and Shadow kind of mixes those two together to kind of craft this middle ground where both sides can end up happy, and if you're one of the fans who enjoys both sides, well, you're extra happy. I gotta hand it. The fact that the side cast that gets as much fan service as this one does, the fact that they're actually relevant and they feel like people and they have their own stories going on, so rather than it just being the Sid show, the fact that the side cast is actually relevant and interesting alongside that eye candy, honestly, I think that's worth praising. Now, episode 14 of Eminence and Shadow decides to go atomic once again, while also providing that spice and interesting sidecast development, so overall, I was a pretty happy camper leaving this episode. Now, full live reaction is available on my Patreon, of course, so consider supporting if you want to see that, but let's talk about this one, because honestly, I was hearing some buzz last week, people saying, oh, it's gonna get really crazy next week, and honestly, yeah, I mean, the boy went atomic again. Honestly, I think the best part of the atomic scenes, now that we've had two of them, it has to be his VA. Like, Sid's VA and the way he gets... I don't know how to express it, because it is so... It's a mixture of badass, but it's a mixture of what the hell is my boy saying and how is he keeping a straight face. Because there's no denying the absolute power and destruction that this man can cause. But the way he gets so into it, man, it's kind of like secondhand embarrassment at times. But man, I have to say, when you have someone who was literally in a straitjacket when you freed her, the fact that there's moments with her where she looks generally like petrified as if, what the hell are we looking at? That's how you know you have a psycho on your hands with Sid, man. But that's why we love him. Like, Sid is such a mixture of badass, chuny persona mixed into one who's actually competent and can do things. But like, even throughout the flashbacks, we continue to get reminded to him, he doesn't think this shit's all that real. It's just some general dumbasses from his point of view, where Shadow Garden's uncovering some crazy-ass conspiracies. But the fact that we have, like, for the first half of this episode, just pure adrenaline, pure beautiful directing, finally getting the full context of what he was doing this entire time. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't alone last week with people being like, I also thought maybe I missed something with why his eye was closed up until the end. Because the fact that he was able to just go throughout all last week to then build into this where not only does he get stabbed in the gut, he gets stabbed where should be his heart, but the fact that he confirms like, hey, I can just move my organs around, which is just honestly such an important ability if you could pick any ability as a warrior. So the fact that he can just go so psycho where he like willingly gets stabbed because then he would be in prime position to take a bite out of a neck vampire style. Honestly, I thought maybe he was doing it because it was like some blood magic where he would heal himself and I don't know, maybe it would drain her but heal him. No, it's just like it's the prime position for that move. And I'm just like, this man, the way his mind works is so twisted, it's so warped, but you can't deny the fact that it gets the job done. And that's kind of why when you're in the passenger seat with Sid driving, all you can do is put your seatbelt on and say wherever we're going is going to be exciting, if not a little terrifying. But I really like what they did with these two characters in this situation, because you have someone who is literally in a straitjacket prior to meeting Sid, and you have some man who you would think is just some psycho demon, and in a singular moment, Sid becomes the most terrifying, crazy, lunatic thing in a room, and I just love the fact that it ends in such an atomic fashion. Like, the fact that he even then summons, like, it looks like there's thousands of this girl, right? And they all just start swarming, and they do some really cool directing with, like, an almost black and white filter, and him just slicing and dicing. It is just so cool, and the fact that he had such a great plan that entire time, like with one eye closed throughout the entire last episode to build into this. The dude's a badass. Like, there's no denying that at all. It's just the fact that his mindset is just so twisted. I love it. But I honestly think this was probably the first time we really got a sense that he felt normal, and that was after the end, like when he wakes up with the whole lap pillow situation. To me, it just actually felt like Sid was human in that moment. Like when she was starting to fade away and say like, all I ever wanted to do was pass on and forget everything, but now this is the one memory I want to remember. There was no jokes there was no goofy final hurrah. It was just him not feeling like a meme. It was him not feeling like he wasn't taking things seriously, and I thought that did a great thing for his character, because Sid is hands down the best part of the show. No one can deny that, in my opinion. But there's a lot of elements that make this show really pop. But the fact that they let Sid just have a moment of kind of felt like humanity, not to say like he fell in love or even like, this was the most important point in his life, but I like the fact that it wasn't silly when she faded on there. And that really makes me interested to see when they most likely meet again someday, when he finds the real her sort of a thing, what will happen with that type of relationship dynamic, given it feels like it'll be very different to the general Shadow Guard members who all just worship the land he walks on. Maybe there could be a bit more mutual respect there, and it'd be interesting to see where they take that. The rest of the episode was all dominated by the sidecast, and there's a lot of interesting things going on. We're in the real estate bubble as they pop up, and just the fact of the matter was, like, the flooding after the whole atomic scene and everything, I just love the fact that it feels like these are characters. Like, are they as interesting as Sid? I would personally say no. Sid's just in an entertainment factor of his own. But there's no denying, in my opinion, that these girls aren't just here for fan service, or they're not just here to be strung along with Sid's antics. Like, I don't think you can deny this either. They are hands down the most important part of keeping the story going, because they're the one uncovering this stuff. Sid's just playing pretend, or from his point of view anyway. But the stuff that he gives them, this information he thinks is BS or just make-believe, ends up letting them find the truth. So you need them in order for the show to function. And the fact that they actually feel like they have their own stories going on and they're relevant and they're feeling important, no denying that there is spice and fan service, but the fact that they still, in those scenes, give them important plot dialogue, I have to hand it to the show. They know what they're doing in order to make every type of fan happy, and I think that's why the show's been popping off as much as it has been, and why it doesn't feel like it's slowing down, but only speeding up with more and more people jumping aboard the Eminence and Shadow train. Either way, I thought this was an excellent episode. I mean, based on the pacing, I guess we could say we have enough time for a third I Am Atomic, but honestly, I just love the explosiveness, I love the action, I love how you actually compare how many times we've seen these slime mechanic maneuvers happen. Hell, this is even the second I Am Atomic scene. It feels like the combat continues to evolve, the creatures, the people they fight continue to evolve, but most importantly, the concept of the show and how many different flares and styles that it works with. It never feels like one's committed to too long. Like, I think Sid's the type of character who you could grow bored of, or at the very least, an author could find ways to not keep him as interesting as he was. So by giving the sidecast their own stories and their own personalities and feeling like people alongside him, you can deviate away from Sid, not make the viewer grow bored of him, but just crave the next scene with him. And I think that's what they did in an episode like this. First half of the episode, damn, I can't wait to see what Sid does next. And then they just give us the rest of the sidecast. It makes you crave Sid's next adventure or his next moment, but also lets the other characters feel like characters first and foremost. And you have to give credit to this show. It knows what it's doing. It's far more than just the boob and ass jokes, but those obviously are there and people are obviously going to be happy about those. But even if you're not happy about those, you can't deny that it also is a story all at the same time. And that's what I love about this show. But thoughts and feelings yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Like I said, if you want to go the extra mile and see my full live reaction to today's episode and previous episodes, do consider supporting the Patreon. You'll also get video shoutouts and a bunch of other fun perks as well. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.